Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? This is day 6 of the 30-day Black History. I don't like using the word black, by the way, but that's what y'all know. So that's what I'm saying. All right, 30-day Black History breakdown to let you know who you are and what you are about, what people are about. So today we're going to talk about the second wave and the Olmec Grid. Beringia, like we said already, was the second, a late migration into the Americas, and the Olmec civilization as a technological continuation. Okay, so late arrivals meeting ancient civilizations, right? So let's look at it like this. We have to establish timelines in order to understand what's happening in the Americas, right? And in addressing the Beringia migration, what it was, when it happened, and what they found establishes that timeline clarity, right? Beringia is late, not first. It connects to Olmec, Olmec civilization and the proof of continuous African presence after Beringia arrival. So that's what we're going to talk about today, right? And show the integration, Beringia plus Kemetic Moorish equals modern Indigenous Americans, okay? Key message, Beringia happened. It's a real event, real people, but arrived to find a recovering 200,000-year-old civilization already present. Not first peoples, late integration into the existing system. Isn't that amazing? You know, when you really start to look at it and you start to see like just how mixed up this whole world is in regards to the absolute erasure, destruction, and genocide of melanated people is insane. I mean, the amount of money and time they put into destroying the people and still can't do it is just amazing. It's amazing. Our resilience is incredible. So, what Beringia actually was geographic reality, not just a land bridge, it was a massive landmass, okay? 1.6 million kilometers, larger than modern Alaska. Not much of a land bridge, eh? Eastern Siberia and Western Alaska plus exposed continental shelf equals continuous land during last glacial maximum. Features, rivers, grasslands, forests, megafauna, right? Megafauna, right? So you got flowing rivers from glaciers supporting fish populations, grasslands, mammoth steppe ecosystem, forests, boreal tundra transition zones, and megafauna, the mammoth, the bison, horses, camels, saber-toothed cats, etc. Timeline of exposure. Exposed 28 to 10,000 sea level, 120 meters, 400 feet lower than today. Peak exposures 21,000 to 19,000. Submerged 11,000 to 8,000. Sea level rise as ice sheets melted. Today, the Bering Strait, 90 kilometers, 56 miles of water separating Alaska and Siberia. The ice-free corridor problem. Now here's where the timing matters. The Laurentide ice sheet, Canadian ice cap, covered all of Canada, parts of northern U.S., Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and New York. The thickness was up to 3 kilometers, 2 miles of ice. Southern extent, it reached modern-day Seattle, Great Lakes, and New York City. Huge. Cordilleran ice sheet, Pacific Northwest ice cap covered British Columbia, Washington, Idaho, and Montana. Merged with Laurentide, created a continuous ice wall blocking Alaska, continental U.S. land route. Okay, the ice-free corridor status, it closed 26,500 to 13,000. So that would be when Beringia happened. So ice sheets merged, no passage at that time. Then it opened from 13,000 to 12,500. Corridor begins forming as ice recedes. By 12,500, open onwards, passable land route Alaska to Montana to the U.S. interior. But the critical problem, here's what they don't tell you. White sands footprints, 23,000 to 21,000, New Mexico, interior location. Corridor closed until 13,000. So how's this sitting there? If the corridor was closed, people in New Mexico 23,000 years ago, they cannot have walked from Alaska. It proves populations were already in the Americas before the corridor even opened. Funny how that works. So who crossed Beringia then? And when? So who and when? So Northern Asia, Siberian genetic markers are the haplogroups A, B, C, and D, mitochondrial DNA. Source populations, various Siberian groups, not single unified culture. The timing, populations moving east, following game animals, mammoth, bison, herds. Kabish? Now, estimated numbers. Total migration, 1 to 5,000 people over 2,000-year period, 13,000 to 11,000. Small groups, extended families, bands, 20 to 50 people per group. Gradual movement, not a mass exodus, not a coordinated invasion. Why they cross? Climate stress, younger Dryas cooling, 12,800 years ago, disrupted Asian resources. Game migration, mammoth, bison herds moved east. Humans followed the food source, normal, natural. Not discovery mission, survival migration, following resources. Understand? What they found when they arrived, the Americas in the year 13,000, not empty, white sands population, already in New Mexico interior, 23,000 to 21,000. 10,000 years before Beringia corridor opened. Ain't that funny? You got the Bluefish Caves population operating in the Yukon, 28,000 to 24,000, north of Beringia route, but proves people already there. Mont Verde population in southern Chile, 18,500 to 14,800, 6,000 miles south of Alaska. Impossible timeline if Beringia is first. And the Great Lakes copper operations, likely operational 20,000 years ago, resumes documented 9,000 after Younger Dryas. Estimated survivor population post Younger Dryas after the flood, pre-catastrophe Americans, 8 to 10 million Kemetic Moorish autochtons, 85 to 90% mortality. Younger Dryas impact was devastating. Immediate deaths and starvation and flooding. Yikes! Survivors 1 to 1.5 million scattered across the continent. Recovering infrastructure, oral traditions intact, sacred sites known, copper networks resuming, agricultural knowledge preserved. Right? So this is after the flood. We already had these things in place already, right? Because this wasn't the first flood. There were many. It's not what they're telling you. What Beringia populations encountered? Recovering civilization, not virgin wilderness. Mound building tradition, 100,000 plus earthworks, many predating the catastrophe, many predating the flood. Some post-catastrophe, which means they're rebuilding, right? Astronomical knowledge, survivors maintaining 100,000 plus year observation records. Grid awareness, the ley lines, the sacred sites, the copper pathways known and marked. African morphology, populations, all pre-10,000 skulls equals Kemetic Moorish features. The integration process, 13,000 to 8,000. Initial contact, 13,000 to 12,000 from the Beringia. Small Beringia groups encounter Kemetic Moorish survivors. Resource sharing, both populations recovering from the flood. Cooperation, very beneficial, and that's what we did. Knowledge exchange, Beringia, Arctic survival skills, cold weather technologies, and specific tool-making traditions is what they brought with them. Kemetic Moorish, who were already here, had the grid knowledge, the astronomical precision, copper working, and sacred site locations. Intermarriage was happening, genetic blending begins. Beringia men, Kemetic Moorish women, vice versa. Normal for the cultures, okay? Scenario 2, conflict zones, regional, not universal. Competition over specific resources, prime hunting grounds, sacred sites, limited warfare, small-scale conflicts, not genocidal campaigns. Resolution, territorial agreements, intermarriage, eventual integration. Morphological evidence timeline, pre 10,000 BP skulls. All right, 100% African morphology. Luzia, 11,500. The Penon woman, 13,000 years ago. Spirit caves, 9,400. The Kennewick, 9,000. Beringia populations arriving 13 to 11,000. But Asian features not appearing yet. Small population, recent arrival. Year 8,000, Asian morphological features begin appearing. Narrow nasal architecture, less prognatism, different cranial shape. 3,000 to 5,000 years after Beringia arrival, gap proves small Beringia population, 1 to 5,000, mixing into large Kemetic Moorish population. 1 plus million. Takes millennia for Asian features to reach visitability in skeletal records. Do you understand? Modern indigenous Americans are a genetic blend, majority Kemetic Moorish autochthonous and minority Beringia. Okay, that's their genetic blend. Cultural foundation, Kemetic Moorish, mound building, copper networks, astronomical observation, and grid knowledge. Beringia contributions, Arctic survival techniques, additional spiritual practices, genetic diversity, and linguistic elements. Why mainstream overstates the Beringia, the narrative, what the textbooks say. First peoples crossed Beringia 15 to 13,000 years ago. America's empty before this. What a lie. All indigenous Americans equals Beringia descendants. What evidence actually shows? Ceruti, Mastodon, 130,000 years ago. Pedrafuara, 50,000 years ago. The Bluefish Caves, 28,000 years ago. White Sands, 23,000 years ago. Montverde, 18,500 years ago. 115,700 to 117,200 years before Beringia. Ceruti, Mastodon, predates Beringia by that much. 117,000 years before Beringia. The morphology, African features until 8,000, man, proves majority population equals Kemetic Moorish autochthons. Why this lie persists? Beringia equals first peoples, so they say the indigenous equals migrants just arrived earlier than Europeans. We're all immigrants. 15,000 years versus 500 years equals a difference of degree, not kind. Land claims equals negotiable, not autochthonous, just early migrants. If Kemetic Moorish equals first peoples, 200,000 years ago, proof, indigenous actually equals autochtons, original to the land, 200,000-year continuous presence. European settlers equals 500-year trespass on a 200,000-year ownership. The land claims equals legally unassailable. Autochthonous status equals absolute title. So really what I'm saying right now is that look at, they got the dates wrong. Beringia did happen, but it didn't happen when they say they did. They know that now, by the way, because come on, man. AI is just killing it right now. Like AI, they can figure this stuff out easy. And then when you keep digging and digging deep enough, you find the truth. And when I keep digging and digging, finding far enough, I keep running into melanated people at every turn. Why? Because I told you before, the 9 root seeds populated the earth. That's how we came to be, right? And the 9 root seeds are all melanated, obviously, genetically, obviously. It's not like I'm trying to be a racist or trying to be like whatever. It's not that. It's just the truth. And it's actually a pretty obvious truth considering, like, come on, man. Like, hello. We just gotta make sure that we're defining the truth all the time, man. You know what I mean? And I think this information can do that. Actually, this information is doing that. Thank you. So, the Beringia summary moving forward. Real migrational event, not the first wave, second or third, fourth wave, but not the first. They arrived here, and the civilization had already been 115,000 plus years old, right? Saruti Mastodon tells you that. The Bluefish Caves, the White Sands, all of them 10,000 plus years older than Beringia. Not discoverers, not sole ancestors. Beringia became an integrated population and contributed, added genetic diversity, Arctic skills, and spiritual practices to the already existing populations. Right, so this establishes a timeline clarity. Beringia equals a late arrival, not origin, and it sets up the Olmec section. It proves African presence continues after Beringia, not displaced by it. Shows integration model, not replacement, not genocide, but blending into existing systems. Now that we've cleared up Beringia, what it was and what it wasn't, let's talk about what's happening in the Gulf Coast after Beringia arrived. Because 2,500 years after Beringia integration, something extraordinary happens in Mexico, the Olmec civilization, the crux of a lot of debate. And I'm going to break it down for y'all today. Okay, so the Olmec civilization with massive African portraits. They are African. Advanced electromagnetic technology and a grid system that proves continuous Atlantic contact. Are you with me now? Okay, so this is for all the people that do not think Africa and America have a connection. You are insane. Capiche? You're insane. So look, the timeline and geographic context. The Olmec civilization dates. Early Olmec, 3500 to 2900, San Lorenzo Peak. Middle Olmec 2900 to 2400, La Venta Peak. Late Olmec, 2400 to 2000, Tres Zapatos, transition to the Mayan culture. Post-Olmec influence, Maya, Aztec, inherit Olmec knowledge. Do you understand? Geographic location, Gulf Coast, Mexico, modern Veracruz and Tabasco states. Tropical lowlands, rivers, wetlands, and coastal access. Strategic position, South Equatorial current terminus, West Africa, Gulf Coast, direct route. Hello, it's a direct route. Okay. Caribbean gateway, access to island relay network as well. Interior penetration, rivers lead to Mexican highlands, eventually Central America. Why the Olmec timing matters. Beringia integration, 13,000 to 8,000, 5,000 year blending period. Olmec emergence, 3,500. Gap, 4,500 years after Beringia populations arrived and integrated. Proves Olmec civilization equals not Beringia derivative, different timeline, different morphology, different knowledge base. In your face, okay? The basalt heads, electromagnetic grid anchors. The material, basalt, is a volcanic rock. Grid function, it's iron rich, 8 to 12%. I don't know what the hell that is. Magnetite containing 2 to 5% Fe. What is that? Find out for me. Piezoelectric crystals. Important. Why? Find out. Size 6 to 10 feet tall. Visual prominence and electromagnetic field radius. Mass 6 to 50 tons. These heads were electromagnetic anchors. Heavy equals field stability. So they were heavy. They were anchors for the grid, just like the balls in Costa Rica that they found in the jungles there, right? The animals protect them. The jungle protects them, right? I think they used to bury these under the ground, but we'll just keep reading. Number 17 discovered, likely more buried. Network, there we go. Network nodes, distributed system. Cerro Sintipec volcano, 50 to 80 miles away, specific basalt quality, high magnetite content. So 80 miles away, 50 to 80 miles away, they had a site, Cerro Sintipec volcano, which has specific basalt quality, high magnetite content. Morphology, African facial features. Are you dumb? Like, look at this. Are you dumb? You trying to say it's anything but African? broad nose, full lips, prognatism. Documents Kemetic Moorish presence. Hello, the helmet, thick covering, top of the head, chin strap, EM shielding, electromagnetic shielding. It protects the brain, the pineal, from grid field overstimulation. That's why they had it. It was a protector against the electromagnetic properties that they were facing. With the basalt, electromagnetic properties are very high. Magnetic field generation. It has magnetite, naturally magnetic mineral in basalt. Remnant magnetization. Basalt remembers Earth's magnetic field. It's a permanent magnetization from cooling in Earth's field. 50-ton heads equals massive magnet field strength 0.001 to 0.001 Gauss at 1 meter, measurable with magnetometer. Okay, field radius 10 to 50 meters. Detectable electromagnetic field extends this far from the head. That is crazy. The piezoelectric properties, the crystalline structure, quartz, feldspar within basalt, pressure, electrical charge, acoustic waves, physical impact, Earth's tectonic stress. Capacitor function stores electrical charge and releases slowly. Electromagnetic inertia, mass resists movement. 50 tons equals immovable. Electromagnetic fields resist fluctuation. Heavy magnetic object equals a stable field, doesn't spike or collapse unpredictably. Grid anchor prevents electromagnetic chaos during high energy ceremonies. Why basalt? Not limestone nor other stone? Because limestone is good for the quartz, the piezoelectric quartz, and it's poor for anchors, no magnetic field, right? So it's not a good anchor limestone. Granite, weak, good for chambers like Giza, moderate for anchors, not really good for anchors. Basalt, strong, yes, best for anchors, magnetic and piezoelectric and dense. Sandstone, nope, not a good one. Weak, poor for the grid, too soft, no electromagnetic properties. Olmec chose basalt deliberately, not because it was nearby, because it was transported 50 to 80 miles with huge effort, but because of electromagnetic properties required for grid anchor functions. We didn't just do stuff for doing, like, we didn't do things for nothing. Our ancestors are, you don't understand, like, they're geniuses. You understand? Geniuses. They understood nature. They were geniuses, and they're trying to make them like hunter gatherer, primitive, and they give all these madness. Madness. You understand what I'm saying? Pure and unadulterated madness. Right? So even the head placement patterns. San Lorenzo, 10 heads along site perimeter, not central plaza. Roughly equidistant spacing, geometric pattern, some buried underground. No human visibility equals not for display. Grid analysis defines electromagnetic field boundary around ceremonial site. La Venta, 4 heads, near ball court, ceremonial complex proximity, specific orientations facing cardinal and astronomical directions. Grid analysis, it amplifies ball court electromagnetic field. The heads equals field boosters for the ceremonies. Trizapotes, 2 heads, 2 Olmec heads. Later period, Olmec decline, transitioning to Mayan, and continual pattern proves sustained grid knowledge. Buried heads, many found underground. Excavations discover heads 2 to 6 feet below the surface. Why bury them? Because they're anchors, electromagnetic anchors. They're underground equals stable. Less weathering, less disturbance. Field generation doesn't require surface visibility. EM fields penetrate the soil, protects from vandalism, theft in the colonial period. Wonder why? Holy. The helmets, electromagnetic shielding technology, design analysis, what carvings show. Full top of head coverage, crown, temples, back of skull, all enclosed. Face exposed, eyes, nose, mouth, chin covered. Thick construction, solid, substantial material, not thin cap. Chin strap secures helmet, prevents displacement. Individual variations, each head equals unique helmet style or pattern. What mainstream says, the ball game, protective gear, protects from rubber ball impacts. Status symbol, They call it a status symbol. Elite rulers or warriors wore fancy helmets. Cultural identifier, different groups equals different helmet styles. What grid analysis reveals? The problem: high electromagnetic field exposure during the ball court ceremonies. The basalt heads nearby, generating the Gauss baseline field. The limestone quartz that they played on, piezoelectric charge from bloodletting. So when the blood hit the field, it created an acoustic pressure, and the footsteps on the actual quartz also piezoelectric. Okay, the blood on stone, ionic conductor, amplifies the charge 10 to 100 times. So the blood was really important. The rubber ball drumming, 7 to 10, acoustic frequency, additional piezoelectric activation. So these games were serious. Like they were really about electromagnetic conduction. Collective bioelectric field means multiple participants synchronize brainwaves. Total field strength 10 to 50 Gauss, 100 to 1,000 times normal Earth background of 0.5 Gauss. Without protection, pineal gland overstimulation, magnetite crystals in pineal vibrate excessively. Possible effects would be seizures, unconsciousness, permanent damage, cardiac arrhythmia, or death in extreme cases. With the helmet, electromagnetic field attenuation, helmet material reduces field reaching brain by 50 to 90%. This was controlled exposure, enough field for grid interface, pineal activation, theta brainwave entrainment, not enough for damage. That's why they had the helmets. You understand? It was for safe operation. Practitioners can sustain ceremony for hours without injury. The helmet material, not stone, we're not sure. Carvings show a helmet shape, but actual helmets, it might be organic material degraded over 3,500 years, not preserved. Okay? Most likely vulcanized rubber. Why rubber? Olmecs had rubber technology, proven by the balls. Vulcanization with morning glory juice. That's one of the plants, right? We'll talk about that. The dielectric properties. Rubber equals an electrical insulator. It absorbs electromagnetic fields and doesn't conduct. It's lightweight. Rubber helmets equals 0.5 to 1 kilogram. Comfortable for extended wear. Flexible. Conforms to the head shape. Better seal. More effective shielding. Waterproof. Protects from rain during outdoor ceremonies, and electromagnetic shielding effectiveness would be 50 to 70% attenuation, sufficient for safety. Possible enhancement: rubber and copper layered construction. Outer layer, thick rubber, 3 to 5 centimeters, absorbs electromagnetic field. The inner layer, thin copper mesh sheet, reflects electromagnetic field. Combined effectiveness, 70 to 90% attenuation, absorption, and reflection. Why copper available? Gulf Coast Copper Trade Networks, Great Lakes to Mississippi to the Gulf, documented in later periods, likely operational 3,500 years. Why helmets cover the top of the head and not the face? The pineal gland location, geometric center of the brain, equidistant for all skull surfaces, closest external access, top of the head, the crown equals the shortest distance skull surface to pineal. Maximum shield priority, protect pineal from electromagnetic overstimulation. You ever heard this stuff before? No, you haven't, because it's in the grid. Face exposed equals functional. Vision, must see during ceremony to navigate the court and interact with others. Respiration, must breathe freely. Hyperventilation, common in trance states. Communication, must speak or chant vocalizations as part of the ceremony. Sensory input, eyes, ears, nose open equals maintain orientation despite altered state. Engineering optimization, shield what must be shielded, pineal and the brain. Expose what must be exposed, sensory organs and your airways. Result, helmets look exactly like they should for an electromagnetic protector function. How you like me now? Chin strap necessity. Why you secure the helmet? Movement during the ceremony, dancing, jumping, ritual gestures. Helmet can fall off, but with the chin strap, won't fall off. Trance states, It's great for trance states, altered consciousness, possible loss of motor control. Helmet must stay in place if the practitioner stumbles or falls down. Seizure risk if the electromagnetic field is too strong despite the helmet. Seizure, possible convulsions would throw off unsecured helmet, exposing brain mid ceremony equals dangerous. Extended duration, ceremonies lasted hours. Helmet comfort and security is essential. All right. Again, so let's go back. We look at the timeline before we talk about the ball courts. We look at the timeline reality check. Beringia was the tail end, right? So you see Cerruti Mastodon, the White Sands, all of these, two of these, and there's more. You could have put a bunch of them on the rack before Beringia corridor opens, right? So if anybody's arguing with you about that, just tell them, look, there was lots happening before Beringia. There was a lot happening before Beringia in the Americas. Melanated people, Moorish, black folks, everywhere. Okay? That's what they need to know. Very important. Once again, we look at it again. It's not just a bridge. Beringia was not just a bridge. It's a distinct habitat where people lived thousands of years in a paused state. Entry into the Americas occurred only after ice sheets receded 13,000 years ago. Kabish? So easy, right? So again, we have the existing population, 1 plus a million. 1 plus million, million plus, million plus. Yes. Incoming migrants, 1 to 5,000 people. See that there? Integration phase, 13,000 years ago, there was no displacement. The minority Beringian stream was absorbed into the cultural land genetic foundation of the Kemetic Moorish autochtons civilization pre-10,000 skull. Luzia Pinam remain distinct from the later Asian. Morphology. Sorry, this is a lot of information, so you have to understand how absolutely brain racking it is trying to put this all together. So I put a lot of work into this, so you best respect it. And sorry, sometimes I recite it well, sometimes I don't, but what I'm trying to say is that the information is very important. Okay, thank you. So again, the narrative barrier, why the empty continent myth persists, land rights, academic inertia, and racial narratives, right? So it implies that Beringia narrative implies that it's a migrant status, and the claims are negotiable, right? And melanated people have had a 200,000 year presence, which implies absolute title, right? 200, and then the academic inertia, 200 years of geology built on one assumption. Admitting error requires rebuilding the entire field of history. The racial narratives, mainstream history favors an Asian origin discovered by Europeans, arc over a reality of global African indigenous unity. They don't want it, but we do. So here again, we get to the Olmec civilization, which we've been talking about, right? 4,500 years after Beringia integration, the dominant civilization in Mexico still displayed 100% African morphology, right? Crazy, right? The Olmec civilization proves the original population was not displaced. They retained the phenotype, the culture, and advanced physics of the first wave. Melanites. Yes, so now we have the basalt anchors, the hardware of the grid, the material iron-rich basalt, 8 to 12. What is that 8 to 12 FVO? Somebody find out what that is for me. Density, all that kind of stuff. It's very technical terms, but it's saying that it's very basalt is very iron-rich. 17 heads, 6 to 50 tons. Component magnetite, so that was for the pineal. Morphology, broad nose, full lips, African phenotype, like hello. Electromagnetic anchors designed to generate and stabilize fields. That was what these things were made for. And they just happened to make them look like that because they knew y'all would try to steal it. But you couldn't because it was buried underground. Crazy, right? So here we have a bit of a, we just have a little diagram of that. And the problem, why transport 50-ton stones 80 miles through swamps? The reason why they did it is because they needed to make a anchor point for the electromagnetic copper grid. Local stone lack magnetic properties like we spoke about just now, maybe about 5 minutes ago. Specific basalt with high magnetite content was a functional necessity for grid operation. Then we discuss the helmets, right? The electromagnetic shielding, vulcanized rubber, copper trace layering on the inside, and 50 to 90% field attenuation, which was a function, ball game gear, personal protective equipment, shielding the pineal gland from 10 to 50 Gauss fields generated during ceremonies to prevent neurological damage. Ain't that crazy? And then we have the ball court, the piezoelectric frequency chamber, right? So the materials, limestone, calcite crystals equals piezoelectric trigger, rhythmic impact of the rubber ball. It gives you a Schumann resonance, 7 to 10 hertz of energy. Conductor, ionic fluid, blood via drainage channels. The output, amplified electric charge. This is serious stuff, man. So the playing alley was about 20 to 30 meters long, 5 to 10 meters wide. Sloped stone walls, as you see in the diagram, 2 to 5 meters high, 20 to 30 degree angle, limestone construction, piezoelectric properties, pressure, electrical charge, carved drainage channels, direct blood flow to specific locations, maximizes ionic conductor contact with piezoelectric stone. End zones, wider areas, possibly altars, basalt placement zones. Acoustic properties, the stone wall reflectors, hard limestone equals 90% sound reflection, minimal absorption. Sloped heads equals parabolic focus, sound bounces towards the center. Great ingenuity. Results, sound amplification, 3 to 10 times louder than open space. Standing wave generator. Number 2, acoustic property. Chord dimensions create resonant nodes, specific frequencies amplified. Fundamental frequency determined by the chord length, harmonic series, integer multiples, 20 to 30 hertz, 30 to 45 hertz, 7 to 10 hertz range, achievable via rubber ball drumming, Schumann resonance overlap. 3, the acoustic sweet spots, pressure nodes, locations where standing waves create maximum acoustic pressure. Grid function, position practitioners at nodes, maximum electromagnetic field exposure for grid interface. The games were to interact with the electromagnetic copper grid. Do you understand what's happening here? It had a piezoelectric function. How limestone generates that charge, it does it in all the other sites too. Calcite crystals in limestone equals piezoelectric. Pressure application, acoustic waves, footsteps, ball impacts, bloodletting, body weight on knife. Crystal deformation, pressure, lattice structure shifts, charge separation, voltage generated, baseline, dry limestone core equals 0.01 to 0.1 volts low. With blood, so we needed the bloodletting, ionic conductor on piezoelectric surf equals 10 to 100 times amplification, 1 to 10 volts measurable. You understand? The bloodletting actually made it more powerful. That's why a lot of our answers use blood and like obia and all these different things. Some of them, right? Some of them are like, they do things differently, man. But we have to like actually check and see what our answers are, not stop listening to people that don't know. Anyway, let's hold right there. So as you can see, this is how the whole system works, right? You have the rhythmic and acoustic equals piezoelectric charge. You have the amplification, ionic conduction or blood spikes energy. You have the stabilization. The basalt anchors regulate field to 10 to 50 Gauss, and the protection shielding allows safe interaction. Result, stabilize the electromagnetic field for healing and knowledge download. Don't let them fool you. Wow, no. Ain't fooling me. Again, now, We move on further. The Atlantic Bridge, the rubber, the morning glory, the guanin, the cocaina in the mummies. Okay, this is evidence of continuous Africa to America's contact, pre-Olmec, post-Olmec, all that. The rubber vulcanization, the process. Collect latex from Castilla elastica tree, the rubber tree native to Mesoamerica. Mix it with morning glory vine juice, the Ipomea species. Vulcanization occurs. Rubber becomes elastic and durable. So the morning glory distribution, West Africa, Turbina corymbosa, Ipomea cariaca, same species. So the ones in West Africa and the ones in Mesoamerica, same species. Mesoamerica is the Ipomea tricolor and the Turbina corymbosa, the oleliquio. I don't know what the hell that is, but we'll find out about that too. Identical ceremonial use, divination, ancestor communication, pineal activation, proves transoceanic botanical knowledge transfer, Africa to the Americans. They were using it, right? Like they understood the combination of these things, the rubber and the morning glory, right? So Western discovery, later on, of course, in 1839, some dude named Charles Goodyear vulcanizes rubber. Olmec rubber was vulcanized in the year 3500. So the gap was about 5,339 years earlier, but they discovered it. What is this, cousin of Christopher Columbus? Ah, damn. Anyway, number two, the guanin. Again, guanin, alloy, West Africa to the Caribbean, right? That was the travel for it. Composition, 84% copper, 8% gold, 8% silver, right? Which is why Columbus saw those spears that had the guanin in it. And he was like, hey, wait a minute, this was in West Africa. They know, right? So Ghana, Nigeria, Benin, pre-colonial context, sophisticated metallurgy, controlled alloying, high heat, precise ratios. The Caribbean, Taino, including areas influenced by Olmec trade, Jamaica, Cuba, Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, same composition, same name, guanin. Statistical impossibilities that two populations develop the exact same alloy with the same proportions. Independently, the probability is 0.00001%, meaning nah, guan. Understand? The only explanation is direct contact, knowledge transfer. The grid function is electromagnetic conductor, copper, base, gold, corrosion resistant, and silver, frequency enhancement. We've already discussed this already, like yesterday, the day before. Worn at body energy points, the throat, the wrist, the chest, grid interface via jewelry. That's why we love jewelry. It wasn't just about looking good, it was about electromagnetic connection. The cocaine in the Egyptian mummies. Discovery 1992. Dr. Svetla Balbanova analyzed Egyptian mummies. 3000 finds cocaine and nicotine in hair, bone, and soft tissue. The problem, cocaina from the coca plant only grows in South America and the Andes. So how? Nicotine from tobacco, native to the Americas, dating 3000 equals 1500 years before Columbus. Academic suppression, contamination, modern cocaine, tobacco contaminated samples. Balbanova tested multiple mummies, sealed samples, no contamination possible. Other scientists replicated findings, cocaine, nicotine in Egyptian and Sudanese mummies. It continues to be rejected. Admitting findings equals admitting pre Columbian transoceanic contact. They can't allow it. Y'all are not seeing the pattern, are you? Are you seeing the pattern? Academic. So what it proves that the Americas to Africa trade was already happening. Coca leaves, tobacco transported across the Atlantic. Regular contact, not single voyage. Sustained trade in specific plants for ceremonial and medicinal use. Bidirectional. If Americans reaching Africa, or Africans are reaching Americas. Botanical evidence. Africa to the Americans. African plants in pre-Columbian Americas. Bottle gourd. What's this one? Legionaria caesarea. African origin, found in the Americans 10,000 years ago. DNA confirms African lineage. Cotton hybridization. African cotton And American cotton equals hybrid found 5 to 7,000 years ago requires human transport. Yam, West African staple, pre-Columbian Caribbean, linguistic evidence Taino name equals Wolof. Nyami, American plants in pre-Columbian Africa, Asia. Sweet potato, America's origin, found Polynesia 3,000 plus. DNA confirms American source. Maize, very disputed. 12th century Indian temple carvings depicting maize 371 years before Columbus. Don't know why it's contemptuous because it's true. The pattern sustained by bidirectional contact, Africa to the Americas and Americas to Africa. Botanical exchange, chemical evidence in the cocaine, nicotine in mummies, metallurgical knowledge, guanine alloy equals identical formula across the ocean. Why? Same people. Timeline 10,000 bottle gourd, 5,000 cotton hybrid, 3,500 Olmec peak, 3,000 cocaine mummies, 1492 European interruption, a 100,000-year Atlantic bridge maintained continuously. Americas and Africa, same people, lots of travel back and forth. Y'all are insane if you don't think there's a connection. Insane. Olmec influence on later Mesoamerican civilizations, so they continued the grid. The Mayan culture, the Aztec culture, right? They both continued that same tradition. Ball courts, bloodletting rituals, astronomical observation, rubber technology. They expanded the writing systems, glyphs, architectural complexity, pyramids, palaces, grid continuity. Ball courts, still electromagnetic chambers, helmets still depicted, functions still preserved. The Aztecs, 700 to 1521, inherit the ball game. They call it Talachi, human sacrifice instead. They escalated the version of bloodletting, and they had rubber technology. Morning glory use, LSA seeds in divination rituals, direct Olmec tradition continuation. Spanish documentation. The conquistadors were horrified by bloodletting. They destroyed the codices and suppressed the grid knowledge. The Olmecs were the foundation, not primitive precursor, sophisticated original civilization. Maya, Aztec equal the inheritors of Olmec electromagnetic grid technology. They refined it, expanded, but fundamentally the Olmecs designed it. Wow. So again, we see the distinction, right? You see it right here, the two distinct waves, one continuous story. Beringia, real late, but late. It's real but late. 13,000 years ago, migration and integration happened, minority contribution to the population. The Olmecs, advanced technology, 3,500 years ago, continuity of the Kemetic Moorish base, Pedro Ferrata and all the rest of them, and the electromagnetic engineering and their global trade. Don't let them fool you. We were here a long time ago, all over the world. I told y'all, I've been telling people that that melanated people, black people, have been indigenous to the entire planet. This is what I'm talking about, and I am going to explain it. This is the evidence I'm giving. You understand? And that's what I'm doing over the next 30 days. You're going to know the melanated origin of everything because there is a melanated origin to everything in history. So at the end of the day, civilization was never lost. The grid didn't stop in Mexico. The technology and the bloodlines moved north. Tomorrow, day 6 or day 7. This is day 6. Day 7. The next chapter, we are going to talk about the Washita Nation, the 100,000-year claim to the Mississippi Valley. Get ready for that one because they can't lie to us no more. They can't. They can't lie to us anymore. The truth is just in your face all the time. And it really, really is a wonderful thing to know the truth of your existence. I am having a wonderful time doing this. I hope that when people start to actually watch these videos and see what's going on here, they're going to see that I'm very thorough with my information, and the methodology that I have to prove all this stuff is unbelievably smart. I ain't going to tell you what it is though, but just know I got the code, and I'm going to tell it, I'm going to teach it, and I'm going to talk about it. All right? I hope that you all are gaining some real knowledge from this, because I'm telling you right now, if you listen to this information, if you take stock of it, if you write notes on it, look at my presentation here and see what's happening, you are going to get a very, very clear picture of where you stand in this world, and it's going to make you extremely proud. If you are a melanated person or an ally who really enjoys seeing Black people come together, work together with everyone, because we have created this wonderful place called the Earth. Well, we didn't create it, but we populated it, civilized it, and created this wonderful electromagnetic grid that used to help us live in peace and now has been toppled for a little bit by a synthetic grid made of lines, and you could turn off your energy and all that kind of nonsense when we had free energy in our system and our bodies were attuned to it because of our melanin. Okay? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Day 6, Beringia and the Olmecs explained. We be killing it here. Take your notes. If you have any questions, ask in the comment section. Have a great, great day. Take care.